In today's video I will share a summary of the 2020 Wolfsberg Group guidance to support financial institutions in developing a more effective anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing program. So let's get right into today's video. Hi, I'm Marco Beranzoni and this is FinCrime Agent, my YouTube channel where I'm talking about financial crime prevention and anti-money laundering related topics. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button below and press the bell so you can get notified once new videos are going live. Check the description of this video for useful links, and you will find there also the patreon.com page where you can support FinCrime Agent with a small contribution and receive some unique material created for our Patreon community. So with that housekeeping out of the way, let's start about today's topic and talk about the effectiveness of money laundering programs that are implemented by financial institutions. There is a study completed by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes that is telling us that less than 1% of the global illicit financial flows are currently seized and frozen. This is an alarming bell because we understand that there are programs in place within financial institutions, but the results are not so great and definitely below the expectations that the public would expect to see in terms of money seized and frozen from illegal activities. So to tackle that aspect and see how we can actually improve the programs that are in place, it's important that nowadays we start to shift our attention into the effectiveness of those programs, putting further effort in the output of those programs, not just focusing on the input aspects. To do that, the Wolfsberg Group has published some guidance that would support the enhancement of the anti-money laundering programs that are in place. To further understand why it's important to shift our attention into the effectiveness of money laundering programs, it's important that we look at what is the current status and how those are actually working. At present, most SARs are submitted at the back of anti-money laundering transaction monitoring systems, which generate a great deal of false positive. We've talked about this in previous videos on my channel. The high rate of false positive is very costly for financial institutions from a risk and compliance resource perspective, and additionally reduces the level of efficacy and efficiency of the current approach in reporting suspicious activity to local crime agencies. As I mentioned before, a reform is necessary at this point within the financial services sector to ensure the focus is expanded from simply complying to anti-money laundering laws and regulations purely for regulatory reasons into the output of those activities, with particular attention in building efficient outcomes resulting in a material reduction of money laundering and financial crime activities. To support this and in line with the FATF recommendations, more work on the effectiveness of anti-money laundering programs will be needed. The Wolfsberg Group has therefore published in 2020 their recommendations suggesting a revised approach to increase the effectiveness of anti-money laundering programs. The Wolfsberg Group is an association of 13 global banks which aims to develop framework and guidance for the management of financial crime risks, particularly with respect to know your customer, anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing policies. On the slide you can also see a list of the financial institutions that are part of the Wolfsberg Group. So let's look at these three key elements that are suggested. The first out of the three elements suggested by the Wolfsberg Group is the compliance with anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing legislation. This is obviously a continuation of how financial institutions have been collaborating and supporting laws and regulations correlated to anti-money laundering. So they are essentially saying continue to do what you are currently doing in terms of following the laws and regulations in line with the jurisdictions that are in scope for your financial institution. The second element is providing highly useful information to relevant government agencies in defining priority areas. This implies a collaboration between the public and private sector to be aligned on the risks that are more relevant for those jurisdictions and make sure these are in sync with the priorities of the financial institution. The third element is establishing a reasonable and risk-based set of controls to mitigate the risks of a financial institutions being used to facilitate illegal activities. So this implies a review of the systems and control in place to make sure those are actually aligned to the priorities. And how to reach these three elements and how to reach the end goal, which is improving the effectiveness, has been further drilled down in the publications from the Wolfsberg Group into 5 different steps. So I want to talk about those one as well, and let's start with the first one, which is assess risk in defined priority areas. Essentially, financial institutions would need to understand which are the key risk priorities from an anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing perspective in the jurisdictions where they operate and align to those ones. When the risk priorities specific to the financial crime are not indicated, an FI can refer to the National Risk Assessment or a similar document that is published in those jurisdictions and use those ones to define their priorities. So reviewing the list of priorities in line with the risks correlated in those jurisdictions for financial crime. The second step is the enhancement and review of the controls that are in place. Once the priorities are defined, as indicated under the first step, an FI should review and assess the financial crime controls and its linked governance that are in place to ensure those are aligned and fit for purpose to identify and mitigate the risks. So continuing to do the same things as you used to do before assigning new priorities, it wouldn't be a smart way to move forward. So it's important the review of the systems and control is completed to be aligned with the new priorities. The third step is to assign a priority on the resources that are available by the financial institution. As no financial institutions are equal one to another, it's important that an FI implement a risk-based approach on the risk priority areas that are identified and are more relevant to their business, to their geography and products. Upon identification of their own priority areas, FIs can explore the possibility of leveraging new technologies, for example, like machine learning and artificial intelligence, to act more efficiently. When this is the case, scaling up the use of more modern techniques and making redundant any process considered outside of the new effectiveness program that has been established. And as a result, this could also imply a reduction in the costs, as new technology can support the reduction of staff in some cases and having a more dynamic and smarter way of working. The fourth step is the engagement with law enforcement. The financial institution engagement with the law enforcement will allow them to remain in the loop about financial crime trends and emerging risks. Financial institutions are therefore invited to take part through a public-private partnership to discussions that will help them to share any significant event and in return gather key financial crime risks and updates. An example of this cooperation between the public and private sector would be the GIMLIT, which in the UK is providing this type of exchange of communication between financial institutions and the public sector. And lastly, the final step would be to demonstrate the effectiveness of the new program that is in place by the financial institution. An effective AML program should have in place a strong reporting to inform internal financial crime risk committees, the board, or any other external examiners. Also, to ensure the program is actually reporting at the right level, a constant feedback is important with constructive comments from the receivers of those reports to allow that the reporting is actually in line with the expectation and is targeting the effectiveness at the right level. And this was the summary that I wanted to put together for the review of the Wolfsberg Group recommendation and guidance to make more effective anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing programs for financial institutions. I hope you have enjoyed my video, and I hope the information that I shared were clear enough. However, in the description of the video you can find more links and references for the publications and the study that I was referring to throughout my video. If you liked my video, I appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel and share with anyone else that could benefit from this kind of information. With that, I'm at the end of the video, and thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and until next time, see you soon.